Okay, so this is the fourth video of programming. I'm 4 out of 6 is what? How many percent? 4 out of 6, 2 or 3. 66.67777777% way there. Progressing, okay. So let's see, right? So now this is all about decision structures, right? Now what are decision structures? Decision, did I say structures, whatever. It's basically where there's going to be a decision. So if you know logic, for example, do you play ball? And then you get two arrows coming down, yes and no. That's a decision, right? So whatever you decide is going to affect the output, basically. Huh? It's going to take different roads. That's the way I see it, right? Different roads. So they got this way of understanding this whole decision structure, a simple way. You shoot the basketball, right? So the basketball goes. When the basketball goes, it can take two routes. If the basketball goes through the hoop, say I did it, else say I missed it. So it makes complete sense, right? When you throw the basketball and aim for the hoop, you can either go in or go out. Now, if the basketball went through the hoop, if this is true, it'll say in the code I did it. If the basketball went through the hoop, if this was false, it'll skip this because it's false, so it ignores, and then it looks for something else. And guess what? Something else, and there's else, and then you say you missed it. You see? So the structure of the if statement is simple. If and end if. So you know how in HTML we got like body and then closing body, head, closing head. For the if it's similar. You have the if opening, you end if closing. That's how you look at a selection structure. Because just now we're going to be doing what's it called? Two selection structures. So what's important is you know this if and end if, right? Now this is easy, you know how it works. Making more than one decision. Now see, now I'm making more than one decision. It's called a nested structure, right? So a nested structure, it's very simple also. You just have to look at it from a bird's eye perspective. When I say bird's eye perspective, when I say you have an opening if and a closing end if, that's one like thing, right? Structure. If and end if. Right. Sorry, ignore that. Ignore what I just said. If and end if, that's one. This whole thing is if and end if. That's one structure. Then you have if and end if, that's two. You see how the yellow is getting? So now if you think about it logically, right? This is called the outer structure. This is called the inner structure. Now, I want you to listen very carefully of how this works, right? It's very important. If now you shoot the basketball, if the basketball went through the hoop, if this is true, you will look in this decision box. If this is false, you go straight down to this and say you missed it. And it makes sense, right? If the basketball went through the hoop, you threw the basketball in the hoop and you either got 2 or 3 points. So if this is true, that's the only way you get points. But if the basketball never go through the hoop, it skips this inner and just goes to else in the outer and you missed it. You get what I'm trying to say? So when you see this and if it's false, you look at the outer layer. The outer layer, there's only one statement, else if. So obviously this is false, you just put this missed it, right? If you did throw the basketball to the hoop, say I did it. And then if it was inside on the third point, you say 2 points. If not that, it'll be obviously 3 points for me. That's how it works, right? Making more than one decision. So again, now there's if and if, that's 1, if and if, that's 2, if and if, that's 3. So we got 2 inners and 1 outer. So the first one we want to do is outer. So if the basketball went through the hoop, right? If it did, we say I did it. And then we go into the second decision. If Derek was either inside or on the third point line, then if that is that or else it's that. If it was not in the inside or third point line over here, we'll skip this and go to the second inner. Say you missed it. No, sorry. Okay, so this is how it works, huh? If this is true, you look inside here. Right? If this is false, you look outside. Yes, say you missed it. It's back. Okay, I see how it works. Okay, okay. So if this is true, if the basketball went through the hoop, you look at this first inner, right? If he was inside on the 3 point, this, or if that, not that, that, right? Now, true. If this is false, you will go and look at the outer. Can you see the outer here? It says missed it, else missed it. So you say else missed it. And then if the basketball hit the rim, say close. So it makes sense, right? Because if you didn't miss it, it could like almost hit the rim, so you can say that. So yeah. So when you're looking at the outer, just ignore this first one here. And then look at this, right? Okay, so here is a real life example now. Let's see. Okay. So if the number of baskets ordered is at least 3, so 3 or more, the discount rate is 20%. If it's less than 3, okay. So if your basket order is less than 3, if it's a member, you get 15% off. If it's not a member, you get 5% off. If it's more than 3, at least 3 means more than 3, and equal to 3, more than equal to 3 is 20%. I'll explain to you simpler, yeah? Okay, so it's very, very simple, right? So first look at how many structures there are. Let's see where it starts. Okay, there. If and end if, that's 1. If and end if, that's 2. Okay. If the number of baskets is at least 3, right? If this is true, then the discount rate is 20%. And that makes sense. That's what they told you, right? If it's more than 3, discount rate is 20%. If the number of baskets was at least 3, if this was false, you won't look at this, you'll say else. If the class member, then you put 15% if it was a class member, huh? If it was not a class member, then obviously member will ignore this also, then you'll put else, discount is 5%, and end if done. So you see how simple it is? Now, if this was false, that is why we're looking in these. So you see, so it's very, very you get used to it, right? How it works. And then obviously now you need to do the code for the discount. You get it from here, all that, and basically display the total. This logic can also be done in a flow chart, so it makes sense. See, number is greater than 3, then you look at the discount at 20%. If it was less than 3, you will see if it was a club member or not. See, this is the second structure of if and end if. This is the first structure of if and end if, you see. So that's how it actually works, this whole structure. So let's see what they're saying here now. Customers not a member. Okay, this is the same one, I think. They're calculated similar. Okay. So if the number of baskets is less than 3, if this is true, right? Then you have to look at the next condition. If it was a club member, you'll say this. If it wasn't a club member, you'll say this. Now, if the number of baskets less than 3 is false, I'll skip this inner ones. Because see, if and if there's 2. So if this is false, I'll look at my outer structure, which is false. I'll look at my outer. Else, discount is 20%. See, I can draw a square here. If and end if, see, square. See how I'm creating the square? This is the inner structure. If it false, I ignore this whole inner structure. See? So because I'm ignoring this whole inner structure, this is false, I skip these and go straight to else, discount is 20%. If this is true, I look at my inner structure. Can you see how it's working? So yeah, it gets easier as you can see it, right, from a bird's eye perspective. Now the actual code, because we just said display, we're not going to write in the code, but this is the actual code. So first, we need to declare all the variables, right? So once we declare all the variables, we start by saying integer this, right? So the reason why we say over here, we're converting the text box, which is a string, and the basket string to an integer. And obviously we're saying what's the subtotal. The total is obviously the baskets times the price, obviously. So that's just how you declare all the variables, right? Because all these calculations you do now, these variables have to be stored on the system. You do that by declaring it. Now, if the basket is greater than 3, if this is true, then the discount is 0.2. If the basket, right, if this was less than 3, then let's see what you do. So you skip. So I'm just checking how many structures here. If and end if and end if. Okay. So if it was less than 3, which is false, you'll skip this first one here and go to else. If the member checked the box, check the box, then you put this. If it didn't check the box, you put this. So you see, that's how it works, right? Same thing over here. See, it's nested in the structure. If this is false, you look at this inner structure here, the second structure. If this is true, obviously just below it you can look at that. Same thing over here. If and if and if yeah, if and end if and end if. So you see there's two. So that's how I identify the structures, right? So yeah, this is how it actually works. So yeah. Okay, so there's another way of representing this decision thing, right? Okay. So there's going to be like a button, okay, they don't show, or an interface. Oh yeah. See how people can either enter code 1, code 2, code 3, or yeah, code 4? Depends what the code is, you do a calculation. For example, if the code 1 is equals to 1, or else code equals to 2. So if the code says here 1 or 2, then the text of here, where's the text? This text box, okay, you can see, must say California. This is 4, so where's 4? 3 and 4 say we're constant. So this is or, so it can be both. So you see, it's simple, this, man. If it's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's some other number, then obviously you skip this and go else, and it can be invalid code. Yeah, simple structure. I actually like this. It's very, very nice. Huh? It depends on the code. So you're just seeing the structure of this code. Easy code, actually, this one. I actually like this one better than the decision structure. So it's the same thing now, but this one is cases, right? Case 1 to 5. If the user puts 1 to 5, you put price equals 25. If the user puts 6 to 10, you put this price. The price put like greater than 10, you put this. If neither, all three, you put 0. Simple, right? It's saying in the text box, if you put 1 to 5, text box 6 to 10. Simple. What am I saying? Simple. I like this, man. Radio buttons, I told you, are small circle buttons, but you can only press one out of them. Checkbox, you can press all. They can have multiple checkboxes, press all. Radio buttons, you can't press all. You can only put one. See, radio buttons are these. You can only put one in a category. Checkbox, you can put all three, but that's the main difference. Huh? So this is simple too. Without looking at the code, I can tell you, if you press example this checkbox, it must produce another one, another function. Yeah, simple. If this checkbox here, the name here is clicked, it's checked. That means if you press, the user press the button, then display that. If the user never presses button, check the other button. And if that is true, then you say this. If not, then you say that. You see? Yeah, the structure is now making sense. Yeah? Message box. Now, how do you show a message box? What is the code? Message box.show. Don't forget that. Message box.show. They will confuse you in the exam. They'll say message box.view. They'll confuse you, but you know message box.show. Show. The way I see it is MS. My son, my shoe, my something like that, right? But remember it because it'll confuse you. Okay, so message box. Now I already went through this actually. How you create a message box. Message box.show. This first thing over here wants to know what you must show, the actual message. This one is the title of the message box. This one is what buttons you want in the message box, and the last one is the icon, the actual icon. I'll show you now. Wait. Okay, so message box show. Delete this record. The message of the message box will say delete this record. See, delete this record. The actual message. The next one will be the title payroll. Let's see if there's a title payroll. There we go, title payroll. The next thing is we're going to name the buttons yes and no buttons. There we go, message buttons yes and no. Then the icon is the exclamation. Do we have an exclamation icon? Let's see. Yeah, exclamation icon. So this is how you create a message box actually in thing. And there we go, we're done. And then okay, dumb button. Okay, you're declaring the button as a dialog result. A dialog result is important because that's how you declare a button. When you let's see, dialog result. Okay, so when you're creating a message, right, you want to declare a button as a dialog result. Now I'm just checking how this code works. Okay, so button is equal to this, right? I see. If the button is equal to the dialog result, which is yes. I see. So if the button is clicked, right? If it says yes, if it's clicked. So if the button over here says yes and it's clicked, then delete the record. Oh, it makes sense. This is a delete record message button. So if you press yes, it'll delete everything. So it makes sense. If the user press yes, say delete. Yeah, makes sense. 100% makes sense. Example 2. Okay. Play another game, master. Oh, okay. If the dialog button says yes, that means the user has clicked yes, which means to play another game. Because this is a message, play another game. So obviously it'll be play another game. Makes sense. This is just saying the different buttons you can do in your message. And yeah, that's it for this episode here. There's just doing like things, yeah. So that's it.